Good morning, all of you. I think you've heard some of the distinguished panelists earlier. And what I would like to share is some of my experiences in the last 3.5 decades in the area of safety, working in defense. And subsequently, I have taken over as director of a Center of Excellence in Process Safety and Risk Management in IIT Delhi. This has been recently set up under a memorandum of understanding between IIT Delhi, which is the academic partner, GEXCON Norway, which is the knowledge partner, and Nayara is the funding agency. There are many more industries who are coming up who would be joining with us. This was a brainchild of Dr. J.P. Gupta, who had this vision of setting up a world-class safety institute for minimizing risks while India is progressing on the way to becoming a trillion economy. We also need to be sustainable and safe. So with this in view, the COE was set up. And one of the main verticals of the COE would be training. And as we have heard from previous speakers, the importance of training throughout the entire organizational structure and especially the leadership. The senior leaders, the executives, the board members, they need to buy into safety. Their commitment is very, very important. Not only their commitment, their understanding. Because generally they leave it to the middle managers and sometimes to the operatives to actually carry forward the implementation of risk management or risk assessment decisions. They themselves may not have an understanding of what QRA is about. They do not know the basics or elements of PSM. They think that the line managers and the actual people would take care of it, but that's actually not true. What happens is when the top management buys into it, they have the resources at their command. They know and they can make the decisions as to where the resources should go. And if they actually understand the nitty-gritty of what QRA means, what PSM means, what are the elements of PSM, what are the risks to their concern, what are the vulnerabilities of their various processes, they can make informed decisions about their own concerns and their establishments. So it is very, very important to first sensitize the leaders. And with this in view, we are proposing to start a training course for board members, for senior executives, and people in top management positions. A short training course which will tell them about PSM, which will tell them about the elements of PSM, tell them about how important their involvement is, understanding what it means when a QRA report comes to them, how do they make cost-benefit analysis decisions with this. So these are the things which we propose to do. Of course, we are going to have regular training programs as well for people who are actually in the nitty-gritty of process safety management. In this, with the help of GEXCON faculty, GEXCON, as you know, has about 4 to 5 decades of experience in the area of fires, explosions, toxic releases, and their modeling. One thing which I've found is there is a gap between the safety management people and the safety engineers and the CFT. And that gap needs to be bridged. There are certain complex problems which are beyond the scope of human understanding. You need tools, advanced tools like CFT to model certain scenarios. And this is where I think our training courses are going to be useful for the industry. Industry, I mean process industry, the oil sector, the chemical sector, and all allied sectors. We need to train our people to use all these tools to understand what could be the consequences so that they can deal with it. In addition to this, we are also going to bring in AR and VR modules, which will help people visualize the scenarios so that if they are emergency responders or they want to do any emergency planning, they would be much better equipped to do so. So this is about the center. In addition to this, we are also going to take up R&D programs. We are going to train IIT Delhi and other faculty who are interested, who would like to be associated with the COE for a prolonged period. They can take up R&D programs to address specific safety issues of industries, and they can also do consultancy on problems which the industry may face, and also help regulatory authorities. Safety standards need to be put in place. We need to evolve safety standards in certain areas. We are also looking at green hydrogen and hydrogen safety. So these regulations again have to be evolved, and the inputs from this center can help regulatory authorities do that. Another main area is accident investigation. And in this again, I think what the work of the center and the expertise available in the center will be able to do so. Now let me share a few of my experiences if I have 2-3 minutes more, or am I running out of time?
We have plenty of time.
Okay. So I'll share a few of the experiences over the last 3.5 decades working primarily looking after safety for Ministry of Defense. So we set up the center called the Center for Fire, Explosive and Environment Safety early in the 90s. And this center had multiple roles. We had a regulatory role. We make the regulations for handling military explosives all over the country. We also do compliance monitoring. We have a regulatory body called STEC, and this regulates explosives all over the country. PISO, of course, looks after the civil explosives, but they also follow some of the regulations which we make. So this, when we do compliance monitoring, we also do R&D so that our regulations are up to date. We carry out trials, large-scale trials for this. Now, when we did a QRA for one of our plants, I won't name, most of them are, I cannot talk about the specifics. But when we did a QRA, that was early in my career, we came out with about 200 odd recommendations, safety recommendations. The people looking after the plant were shocked. They said, if you do this, we are not ever going to be able to start the plant. It's going to be a stopper. So we talked, and they whittled it down, and finally we came to 50 recommendations which they were accepting. Now, I was too young in the process to really put my foot down, and I said, okay, if maybe you are more experienced, you know better, so this is the 50 recommendations. And then they started the plant. And within a few months, lo and behold, one of the scenarios, which they said will never happen, happened. And there was an explosion. Thankfully, there were no lives lost, but there was destruction, there was loss of morale, there was loss of confidence. And then there was a realization both from their side and from our side, the safety side, that there are no compromises on safety. If you have done a complete rigorous analysis and you are convinced, please don't deviate. Please don't listen to supposedly experienced people on the plant side who I'm sure have their own, they have their issues, productivity and so many other issues. But you don't wear their hat. You wear your hat, your safety hat, and be insistent on what you perceive as what needs to be done. And subsequently, we did about for some 40 different projects in various areas of defense and other allied agencies. And we also stuck to it. In the compliance monitoring, I want to bring out one more thing. In the initial audits we used to talk to the safety engineers and to the plant personnel, and we used to do the audits and come out with the recommendations. And in the next round of audits, we would find that only some of the things were addressed. And they would come out with a host of problems as to why finance was not available, or so many other problems were there as to why they couldn't implement the recommendations. Then we realized the importance of the leadership. So from then on, we made it a point that at the end of the audit, we would go and meet the general manager or the head of the establishments or the director of the laboratory concerned and apprise them of the entire sequence of the audit, what were the major recommendations, the priority in which they need to be implemented. And then we found that there was definitely a major improvement. So these are some of the things which I wanted to share. I think I'll leave the floor to my next speaker, and maybe during the discussions I can take up some other issues or questions if there are